Tuesday, May 9th, and this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we drop the bomb and bring you our coverage of E3.
Let's do this. This morning, I pull my car into the parking lot at work, and I see something.
It wasn't E3, was it?
No, it was not E3. And I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and it took like a full 10 seconds for me to go, hoa, hoa. And I looked again, and yeah, there's a Ferrari in the parking lot at work.
Which one?
It's an F430, it looks like to me.
Huh.
And I was like, well, what's that doing there?
You should have jacked it.
I don't know how.
I don't know, you get into it and you hotwire it and then you jack it.
It's not that easy. It's a Ferrari. It's not like, jacking a freaking Hyundai on the street. But anyway, I took 2 pictures of it, and they're on my Flickr.
Yeah, Scott messaged me at work and says, hey, there's a Ferrari here.
I don't know who it belonged to. It drove away when I wasn't looking, and it's not like one of those V12s that you can hear when it leaves the parking lot. And I was kind of in the building, so...
All I could think of was a moment at Otakon this previous year where everyone else, they were all standing in line, Scott and the whole front row crew, waiting to get their badges. Mm-hmm. I already had my badge because, I got in free, and I didn't have to do anything. So I was walking back to the hotel room with a, fuck you guys, I'm going to take a nap deal. And on my way back, I get a call from Scott.
You get a call right after you were with us.
I'm around the corner.
You're with us, and you walk around the corner, and then I see a red Hachiroku.
So he calls me, and he's like, there's a red Hachiroku. And I stop, and I look, and then it comes around the corner and drives past me, and I go, yeah, I just saw it. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then apparently everyone around them was like, what the hell? He called his friend to tell him there was a Hachiroku?
Yeah. Fuck yeah. So that's the last thing we're going to talk about on today's show that is not E3 related.
Whee!
And we're going to refrain from making too many Wii jokes.
Wii 3.
I can't wait to hold the Wii, to get the Wii in my hands.
I'm going to hold it. I'm going to swing it around. Hopefully I won't put anyone's eye out.
Okay, so news.
All right, so in the news, we have some E3 news, obviously.
Awesome.
You know what? All right, there's this...
You know what? The entire rest of the world outside of California, it just stopped and everyone stood in place while E3 went on, so nothing else happened at all.
All right, so... Considering that we're probably going to talk at length about Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo.
Oh yeah. So everyone knows this podcast might be really, really long.
Yeah.
Longer than most Geek Nights and most other podcasts, actually. So be prepared to listen for a while. We're not going to split it up into 3 separate ones. We're giving it to you all in one go.
Which is going to be great 3 weeks from now when we have nothing to do on a Tuesday.
I know, no. Next Tuesday we'll probably take care of all the other E3 tidbits that come out during the show, because the actual show doesn't start until tomorrow. This is just the 3 major press conferences we're talking about. And then the week after that, we'll probably have the new Mario Brothers for the DS, and we'll talk about that. So the Tuesday, not the Monday. So we'll be good.
Yep, but since we're going to cover Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony in the main bits, we're going to cover some non-Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo news.
Awesome.
Now, you all know Red Octane. They are famous for their Bimani stuff.
Well, they were originally a company to rent video games, sort of a Netflix style, right?
Yeah, and they weren't that successful, but I signed up with them.
Do they still do that at all?
I don't actually know. I
don't think they do.
All I know is that way back, like when I was a freshman in college, Red Octane was around, and I wanted to get import games for the PS1 that I had just bought.
Oh, no, Red Octane still has game rental.
Oh, cool.
Netflix style, yeah.
Because when I had them, they were actually really good.
Yeah, so Red Octane is a game rental company, but what they eventually did is they sold DDR pads.
Well, what happened is that they sold a couple of DDR things, and they sold like accessories for PlayStation games, in addition to having the rental system. I guess they noticed that far and away the only people who signed up with them got the import games, and far and away people wanted all the DDRs that weren't in the U.S.
Yeah, there was the Red Octane somehow, by chance, in making a game rental service and selling dance pads, became the easiest and best place to get DDR equipment if you were a DDR fan. So when DDR exploded, Red Octane got the green.
Because back then, we didn't have any DDRs. So I signed up for Red Octane, and for a month, all I did was get various foreign DDRs, copy them with my Plex store, and then send them back immediately.
It's a good way to go.
I then quit my free trial one day before I would have had to pay.
Awesome.
That's how I got every DDR, and we played them extensively.
If you want to get every DDR for the PlayStation 1, sign up for Red Octane. Anyway, so Red Octane became the premier place for DDRs and stuff.
They make the best non-Cobalt Flux Blue pads you can get.
So then they got into the business of making DDR pads.
Which was extremely lucrative. Their soft pad is awesome. I highly recommend it to anyone who likes DDR.
Yeah, and if you're really hardcore, you can get the hard pad.
So then, Guitar Hero.
Yeah, they said, hey, we're doing really well. Let's actually make some games. So they made In the Groove and In the Groove 2.
Which are kind of terrible.
Yeah, well, In the Groove 2 is good. I don't know what you're probably... Would you change your mind?
No, they're great, but they've got some gimmicks in them. They're not that easy to find.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, then they made Guitar Hero. Because they was, keep going with the Bimani deal.
Guitar Hero was the sleeper hit for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, I think everyone knows about Guitar Hero.
Yeah, Guitar Hero is at every con now. It's as ubiquitous as DDR used to be at the early cons.
Well, because I think there was Guitar Freaks, but no one really got into it. And I think Red Octane had a bunch of the Guitar Freaks guitars lying around. I don't know if it's the same guitar you use in Guitar Hero or not. But
people really got into Guitar Freaks. The problem was it was hard to get.
Yeah. So Red Octane made Guitar Hero, and they made it real accessible.
Anyway, to make a long story short, before we go any further on the history of Red Octane, they just got done bought out by Activision.
Yep, Activision just bought Red Octane, just cha-ching!
Straight up and suddenly, and they announced it today.
So what does this mean for Red Octane? Not much. They're going to let Red Octane keep doing its business because it's doing good business.
Activision doesn't do such good business, so if Activision decided to screw with Red Octane, that's the end.
Yep, so Red Octane's going to keep doing its good business. They're going to put the Activision label, obviously, on future Red Octane games. Maybe help Red Octane out by publishing the games with Activision's mighty publishing powers. But
I'm not worried that any trouble will come of it, because if it does, the internet will explode.
Yeah, no one's going to let anything happen to good old Red Octane.
So, is there any other non-Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft news?
Yep, and it's also DDR related. There's going to be, according to Konami and their press conference that happened just now, there's going to be a DDR television show.
We're not sure just yet what this entails.
There's going to be a live television show based on Dance Dance Revolution. The name of the show will be called Dance Revolution.
Gasp!
It'll be on CBS this fall.
I
don't watch TV, but I see torrents of the first episode and a GeekNights episode talking about the first episode of the show.
I'm not sure what it could be. I mean, I could see them having like songs of the day or songs of the week that they show on screen and show people dance. They get cool people to dance them. And then maybe they're going to sell the songs they show on the show on the Xbox 360 over the internet thingy.
I could see it being a game show. I could see it being a kids show. I could see it being an instructional show.
A tournament show. A workout type show.
That's a game show. A workout show. Who knows? It could be a bunch of different things. But it's whatever it is, I'm going to be looking out for it.
Yeah, even though we don't play DDR so much anymore.
No, but we would if it didn't shake our house.
Yeah, it's sad, but the floor... Our house is great, but the floor does not stand up to 250 to 170-pound men jumping up and down repeatedly.
Yep. That's why we need a basement.
Yeah, or we could just,
awesome.
go to the arcade, but you never want to go.
It's too much money. I paid for the stupid pad. I'm not going to pay for the arcade.
Well, the pad you can't use. You might as well just play in the arcade.
No, I'm paying twice. Anyway.
Whatever. So, things of the day. I got one little bit. It's obviously from E3.
Yeah, it's hard to find a thing of the day from E3. I mean, I can maybe find some remix videos somewhere, but they haven't been finished yet, so you're going to have to give me another few days on those.
Yeah, so basically, I just wanted to take something that happened at E3 that I wouldn't have talked about any other place, really. Now, Kotaku had this, and they noticed, and I've noticed that many other people reporting on E3 have said something similar. As far as anyone can say, no one, other than Sony, had PSPs at E3.
Oh my God.
No one saw anyone playing one. They did, however, see that almost every line, almost every waiting room, almost every lobby was filled with people playing wireless Tetris or wireless whatnot on the DS.
Picto chat.
The DS pretty much dominated E3. Almost everyone had one.
The thing about the PSP is it's a one-man show. If you take out a PSP, you're all, even if everyone else around you has a PSP, you can't do anything with them. You're all alone. It's like...
Well, there are games that use the wireless. They're just not very good.
Are there really PSP games that use wireless to play with other people near you?
Supposedly.
Really? What games are those?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Oh, well, but...
The one guy I met at a con who had a PSP said there were.
Oh.
I didn't bother him about it.
Well, even with the loading times and all that, I mean, it's a lot easier to get a game of Tetris together, especially because there's no way the PSP games have the download play, where you don't need the cartridge or the UMD.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the answer. One guy has Tetris, boom, 10 DSs come out, there. That's
plus,
why,
honestly, the PSP just... The games it has seem to be the same games that the PlayStation 2 has.
Oh, there's more news on that later.
They're the kind of games that you sit down and just play. You can't play that with people because you'll just be sitting there playing your GTA.
People probably have PSPs. Not a lot, but not as many as a DS, but quite a few. The thing is, you don't bring them to social situations because they're not useful in social situations.
Yeah, the only time you see PSPs about in number are on like subways and commuter trains.
Yeah, you see a PSP when you see, an iPod or something. Someone's on a train, a kid sitting in the back of a car. That's when you see a PSP.
Of course, you see the DS is there too.
Yeah, because the DS does that, and it's good at the cons and all that stuff. So, all right, my thing of the day. At the Nintendo conference, you might have remembered there was an AOL contest. And the contest was whoever, you just entered your name and whatnot at AOL, whatever. And if you won the contest, you would go on stage at E3 this morning, and you would be the first person who is not a developer or a whatnot. I keep saying whatnot today.
Yeah, what the hell?
What the hell, yeah.
It's like, like
whatnot, The first consumer to use the Wii.
We were all about that. I mean, I hate AOL. I hate online contests. I hate lotteries. I entered that contest.
I entered the contest. I didn't win. But
obviously.
Apparently what happened was it wasn't just one person. 3 people won the trip out to E3, and they were all sitting at the Nintendo conference. One of the 3 was randomly picked by Miyamoto. I don't know if it was randomly or not, but they said, I guess he picked out of a hat, or they had a card with the name on it, sort of like the Oscars. And there were 3 kids there, and they were both 20-something guys, which is kind of, or they looked like 20-something guys.
Both, weren't there 3?
There were 3.
You said both. Both implies 2.
All right.
You suck.
All 3 of them looked like schmucky guys, but one guy was a real fat bleh guy. And another guy was a slightly fat bleh guy.
Fat like the scary fanboy from Club back in the day.
Fat like, I was like, God, I'm saying like
Mr. Earlobes, who we won't actually name on the air.
They were fat in a way. He was fat in a way where I said to myself, God, I hope he doesn't win so I don't have to look at him anymore. So the fat guy who didn't get to go on stage at E3 and use the Wii is my thing of the day. Way to go, fat guy.
I can see Miyamoto sitting there in his head. He's like, I can't pick that kid. He'll break the stage.
They picked the best looking guy from my cursory glance at the 3 fools. So
you know what? To anyone out there who, inner beauty and all, but in the real world, looks count.
Yeah, no one's going to pick you to go on stage at their very important press conference if you're a fat, ugly schmuck.
Or you've got like 9 eyes and 6 fingers.
Yeah. Watch, this fat guy is a GeekNights listener, and he'd be like, hey, that was me. Blah.
You know what?
And he's actually a cool guy or something.
You know what? If you're that guy and you listen right now, we'll put you on the air and apologize.
Well, I won't apologize for calling you fat. I'll just apologize for calling you a schmuck.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not a schmuck, but you're fat.
Yeah, do something about that.
Yeah, you might want to exercise or something. Okay. All right, let's start talking about our favorite current existing system, the Nintendo DS.
It is my primary gaming console currently.
As it is mine, and there are no signs that it will fade.
Yeah, I mean, the other day, for whatever reason, I pulled out Advance Wars, and I started playing it again. And I remembered that, oh yeah, every game I've bought for the system so far, except WarioWare Touched, has been badass.
Yep. If WarioWare Touch had multiplayer, it would be badass. And hopefully a new WarioWare DS will come out, but one wasn't announced at E3.
However, we got the Revolution Wii one, but
we're going to get to that.
We will.
Don't spoil things. Oh, I just want to say before we start going here, we're not here on Geek Nights to inform you. We are not the news story that tells you what happened at E3. We are the /dot comments under that story.
Yes, we're not even going to link to a lot of the things we talk about because it's everywhere.
So here's some hints. Number one, go to e3buzz.com. E3buzz.com. They have... Basically, they took all the RSS feeds of all the major video game news sites and combined them into one site so you can watch what goes down at E3 like in real time.
I pretty much just had it open all day.
I had it open, and I used the Reload Every Firefox plugin. Go to GameSpot.com. They have good stuff. Read Kotaku and Joystick.
Yeah, if you want a good summary, like you just want an overview of the things worth noting, Kotaku is probably your best bet.
Yeah, Kotaku. Engadget has good stuff when it comes to hardware. You know, they partner with Joystick because of the same company. They have really good live blogs of the press conferences. So you'll get some information from listening to us talk, but we're not going to give you the full lowdown. We're going to give you the commentary and what we say about stuff.
Yeah, basically just reactions.
Yes. All right. DS. The DS Lite, which we already kind of knew this, but they announced it for 100% real. On June 11th of this year, for $130, you can get a DS Lite in the USA.
Now, never in my life have I fallen to that, the console you just bought came out again slightly shinier, buy it mentality.
I didn't even buy the Game Boy SP.
I still don't own one.
I use the regular old GBA for, now I kind of think maybe I'll get an SP because I have some old Game Boy and Game Boy Color games that I can play on it, and I kind of want to buy up some used Game Boy Color and Game Boy games to play on it.
Yeah.
And it's also good because we'll still probably use it for the GameCube uplink. Especially if we want to play like the old FFCC or Four Swords on the Wii with the backwards, because they have GameCube holes on the Wii. You can still do that. You can play Pac-Man Verse on the Wii.
Oh boy!
So, I'll probably get an SP when they're like super mega cheap.
But I got to say, I'm really thinking about getting the DS Lite.
Yeah. I don't know. If there's a really, really good trade-in deal, like if you give us your DS, we'll give you a DS Lite for $50. I'll do that. But if the trade-in deal's kind of shitty, like they don't give me enough for my DS, I'm going to give them the finger. And then what I'll do is I'll wait for my DS to like die and where the touch screen is busted and the screens are starting to fade. Then I'll go and I'll just buy a DS Lite with cash and maybe give my DS to someone else.
Yeah, I'm really thinking of just buying a DS Lite, giving my DS to someone, probably Emily if she wants it, and then...
Yeah, I think you really just want to... DS Lite, and you really want to give the DS to Emily so you can play with her.
Yeah. Twofer.
Yeah.
The only drawback, and I don't want to harp on this because we've talked about it before, is the fact that the GBA slot is a little smaller.
That really kind of makes me sad because I just bought the cool Rumble Pack, and it's going to stick out.
The Rumble Pack is kind of dick.
Yeah, but I think if more games start to use it,
the Rumble Pack is not a Rumble Pack. It does not rumble in an effective manner. It does, however, act as a subwoofer. If you play Princess Peach and you put the Rumble Pack in, it uses it to make music, and it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's really loud, too.
I think that if more games start to use it, I'm going to want to have it in there. But as it is right now, it's a give-or-take type of thing.
I just like having a GBA game in there as kind of a backup game.
Yeah, that's
because I got like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance and, Princess Peach, so I can switch it up.
Mm-hmm. But the other thing is that if maybe I'll get an SP when they're really cheap, then I'll use that because it's a little smaller and more comfortable to hold for that type of game than the DS is.
Yeah, and the batteries last longer.
Yeah, and I'll just use and they charge on the same wire. So maybe I'll get an SP for GBA and the old games and just use my DS for DS games only.
Or, honestly, I might just buy a micro.
Oh, micro, that's a good plan, too.
Yeah, because when Evan was up and we saw it, the micro screen is really, 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 really good.
Yeah, the problem with a micro is that it only plays GBA games. It doesn't play the colors in the old games that I want to play, and it doesn't hook up so easily to the FFCCs and the...
Yeah, but if you get an SP, then I'll be fine with my micro.
That's true. All right. So let's go down the list of some of the DS games that we previously did not know about that have been announced at E3. Most of these are going to be Nintendo titles because that's the website I went to look at for the list.
And those are the games we tend to care more about.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the DS games that I bought, The only really great ones that aren't Nintendo licenses are like Phoenix Wright, which is Capcom, and such. And I don't think Capcom had their conference yet, did they?
I have no idea.
Maybe. I'll have to go tomorrow. I'm going to go and look up and see what Capcom did, and maybe I'll throw news in tomorrow.
Nah.
Okay, ready? Chibi Robo for the DS. I've heard good things about the GameCube game. I'm sure the DS game will be more of the same. I haven't played it yet. Maybe I will when it's ultra cheap. I don't think that's going to be a buy at full price game.
Yeah, I got nothing to say about that game.
Children of Mana. All right. There have been a couple of Mana games, I think, for the GBA, right?
If there were, I didn't pick them up. I played the ones on the game.
Oh, I think there was one for the PlayStation, or the PlayStation 2 that was like Tree of Mana or something like that.
The only ones I ever played were SNES.
And then there was like Sword of Mana is the original, right? No, Secret of Mana is the original.
Yeah.
So there was like Sword and Tree. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
For anyone who doesn't know, they're the games that are walk around, hit guys, kind of like Final Fantasy, but more like...
It's between Final Fantasy and Zelda. But the thing about it is the original SNES allowed 3 players to play together.
If you had that special thing.
Yeah, 2 players could play together normally. And then the third person would just kind of hang off the edge.
Which I'd actually never done this as a child, but now us and our friend Katsu have bit by bit been playing the game with the multiple player action.
Yep.
Also, Final Fantasy Legend and Final Fantasy Adventure for the Game Boy. Final Fantasy Adventure games are the same games as this.
Yeah.
They just rebranded them because Americans, they figured the name Final Fantasy would sell.
I think people know what Secret of Mana is. Anyway, a new game in the Secret of Mana series called Children of Mana is going to be on the DS. And I normally wouldn't be interested in this because I'm not only semi-interested in the GBA one and not at all interested in the PlayStation one. But it's going to have that simultaneous cooperative multiplayer action that the original Secret of Mana had because the DS is all wireless. So now I'm all about this game. Woo!
Yeah, because 1, we've really been hurting for fun cooperative games.
Mm-hmm.
2, I mean, games like that were fun on the consoles except for the fact that you have one screen and multiple people who want to go in different directions no matter what.
All right.
The DS will allow that.
Yes.
And it will be beautiful.
There's going to be something called Clubhouse games, which looks like a bunch of card games like Rummy and Poker and all that stuff.
Yeah, whatever. But
I'm not going to buy it, but because it's all wireless and multiplayer, that's the kind of thing that can get like my mom to buy a DS. Because most people who are like casual gamers on computers and such, they mostly play like little crap card games and chess and checkers and backgammon and all that crap.
Plus, honestly, if a game like that were $10 and allowed download play, I might just pick it up and throw it in the bag.
Yeah. You know, that way even a doofus, can pick it up, play, maybe it's got Hearts in it. That'd be worth it.
Yeah.
Hearts would be great on the DS.
Especially since when I actually play Hearts in person, we often forget to count the hearts.
Yep. So, Custom Robo DS. I got Custom Robo.
We disagree a little on this game. I say it's ass.
It's not complete ass.
It's mostly ass.
It's mostly ass. Custom Robo is a game where there are a whole bunch of them in Japan, and from what I saw of them, especially the GBA version, it looked like an okay game where you customize a robot and then you fight in a kind of interesting combat. They finally brought out a GameCube Custom Robo, so I got it. It didn't live up to what I saw of the GBA one on the internet.
The combat was just pretty poor.
Yeah, you customized your robot, and it was sort of a rock, paper, scissors, and whatever you chose, and everyone could see what you were choosing, and it wasn't so great. Not a lot of skill-based combat going on.
And the single player, I still can't believe that you unlock things in that game. I can't believe you played that horrible game.
I played it all the way through once. I didn't play through you have to play through a second time to get the rest of the stuff.
That game had some of the worst plot I've ever seen in a game.
There wasn't. It's not much of a plot. Anyway, Custom Robo DS, I would get it if it looked more like the GBA stuff I remember seeing on the internet. But it looks pretty much just like the GameCube game, and the description is just like the GameCube game, only the graphics are DS quality. So, Custom Robo for DS, I'd avoid this. DK King of Swing DS. DK King of Swing was a GBA game where Donkey Kong would swing around doing stuff. I played it in a store for like a minute, and it was kind of boring and bleh.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why they're bringing out a DS version. Maybe
it must have been popular.
Maybe they'll make it interesting because you'll swing DK using the stylus and all that. But I don't know why this game is cool. If anyone knows why DK King of Swing is a good game, tell me.
Yeah.
DS Air. I didn't actually see anything about this until I went to this one page on the Nintendo website.
This is a kind of game that we don't have yet on the DS.
It looks like a real fighter jet flight sim for the DS. Like, oh, there's an F-16. Look at it go.
The last good fighter jet game I've played was this thing for my 486.
We'll have to see more of this game because it could be really bad and terrible to control the jet, but it also could be really awesome where you dogfight your friends with wireless.
Though there's also those flight games that Katsu always talks about for the PlayStation 2 I kind of want to pick up.
Yeah, those seem like one-player kind of blah games to me.
Yeah, they look fun, though. I want a game where I can fly a fighter jet. I haven't had a game like that in a long time.
Microsoft Flight Simulator we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck you.
Elite Beat Agents. This looks like a beat kind of DDR game, but instead of dancing with your feet or anything, you kind of do the beat with the stylus. And from what I saw in the pictures, it was like draw a circle, move around to different positions on the beats, etc. So it's like DDR for your stylus. It might be cool.
Yeah, we'll have to see it. I'll definitely play it in a store before I actually play it.
Mm-hmm. All right, here's a really good game. Hotel Dusk Room 215.
All right, this game gives me the Phoenix Wright vibe.
I saw the screenshots of this game, and I said, that's Phoenix Wright plus Deja Vu plus Pandora Directive Tex Murphy.
I think they've realized that, because for anyone who isn't aware, games like Phoenix Wright, the very text-heavy adventure games, is a genre of gaming that's huge in Japan.
Huge.
And never really made it over here.
Not at all.
Even though there were hundreds of them, like for Nintendo and Super Nintendo and computer.
Yeah, these kind of adventure games are mostly, there's a bunch of text telling you a story, and you either have to solve a puzzle to continue and get the rest of the story, or you can slightly choose your own adventure a little bit and get the rest of the story. And the choose your own adventure ones are a little better because that way you play it multiple times to get all the endings.
Yep, some of them are really, really advanced with crazy branching stories.
Some of them have puzzles and choose your own adventure. Those are the best ones.
Yeah.
This, I can't tell, but it looks like it has some puzzling. And all the characters look like someone drew them in a manga and then cut them out with a scissor, which is really cool.
I think they've realized, Phoenix Wright was kind of a risk. No one really knew how the American market would handle
everyone
it.
knew that was going to... I knew.
Well, no one in the industry knew. They were like, will people play games like this?
Hells yes.
Well, considering that Phoenix Wright sold out and was re-released, I have a feeling that this game is going to be the start of a torrent of similar games.
Indeed. So, this game looks like Phoenix Wright, but maybe a little better, maybe a little worse, a little more serious.
Looks
for sure.
a lot of detective action.
I'll probably pick it up right away because it probably disappeared just like Phoenix Wright did, and I don't want to risk not having it.
Yeah.
There's going to be a Kirby DS. There's already a Canvas Curse, we know. This is not a Canvas Curse. This looks like a real Kirby game, like Kirby's Adventure and Kirby's Dream Land. I didn't like the Kirby Magic Mirror for the GBA. It was too non-linear and hard to figure out what the hell to do. Hopefully this one isn't like that. Hopefully it's more like Kirby's Adventure, which is the best Kirby game ever.
Yeah, I really have to agree on that. I was playing it the other day.
You were playing Kirby's Adventure?
Yeah, on my computer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Kirby's Adventure rules. If you haven't played Kirby's Adventure for the NES, you got to play that. If you don't have an emulator or whatever, you can get Kirby Something Nightmare for the GBA. Is the exact same game pretty much. So get that. Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass.
I think we talked about it already, or at least mentioned that it's coming out.
I think it's pretty obvious. Everyone buy it.
Yeah.
All right.
Even though the Minish Cap was kind of blah, I don't think this will be that.
This won't be that. Because even if it's blah like Minish Cap, it's gonna have the touchscreen action, which makes it all good.
Usually,
solving Zelda puzzles with a touchscreen. You can give me one touchscreen Zelda puzzle, and I'm set. I'll give you $30. Okay. An RPG named Magical Vacation. I don't know what to say about it. It's an RPG.
Great.
I think it might have some sort of multiplayer something, but I don't know. There wasn't enough information about it.
Of course, RPGs, we do know that on the GBA we're getting Final Fantasy 5 and 6.
Yep.
I'm kind of excited.
Yep.
Because Final Fantasy IV for the GBA was great. It let me play through the game of my childhood without the annoyance of playing through the game of my childhood exactly as it was.
I'll let you buy all those, and then I'll play them as I want.
Yep.
Goddamn monitor keeps turning off. All right. You might know of this Flash game you can play on the internet called Zuma. It's kind of popular. A lot of people pay for it and have it on their cell phones. It's been quite profitable for everyone who's been involved in it.
I'd actually never heard of it.
I only played it once when it came out, and then I saw people playing it around. It's, nowadays these casual little tiny games that you put on a Flash website and you charge people like $5 for a real download. Like that Diner Dash, they made a bunch of money off that.
Yep.
And all those sorts of things. There's a lot of money in that business, cell phone games. Zuma is one that kind of hit it big, where these balls go in a spiral, and you kind of grab the balls and match up the colors. I'm not exactly sure how it's played.
Now, the thing, in terms of gameplay, I don't like these games.
I don't like these games so much
They're
either.
very much not a matter of skill so much as a matter of once you know how to play, you can pretty much keep playing forever.
Well, the games they serve the same role as Sudoku does. It's just busy work, for mindless people to do with their hands.
Occupy your mind and kill time.
Exactly.
You mustn't kill time,
So they're
going to
put out Zuma for the DS, but they're not calling it Zuma probably because they don't want to get sued. They're calling it Magnetica. And you'll probably be able to control the game with a touchscreen. This is another game that all the people who buy Brain Training and Clubhouse games can get on.
Yeah, it's a game to buy your mommy.
Yeah. Next to her Nintendogs. Mario 3-on-3 Basketball DS.
I saw some bits about this, and I'm really excited.
Well, I said I don't like basketball games. Well, I like NBA Jam.
I never even liked NBA Jam.
Oh, I love NBA Jam Tournament Edition for the Sega Genesis. That was a good basketball game.
Double Dribble.
Double Dribble was a good basketball game. Every other basketball game, except maybe Jordan versus Bird, but I don't know about that. But every other basketball game, not good. Very not good.
I mean, all the new basketball games really seem to go for the, look how realistically we emulated the sweat on this player that you're supposed to know.
We have all the right
face.
tattoos and all the right players. We're so hip-hopping.
Yeah. Not much game there.
This looks like it could be a really fun Mario sports game. If we learned anything from Mario Soccer, which we still have to get, but it's still $50 and it's only worth about $35.
Well, there's a reason it's still $50.
Yeah. And if we learned anything from Mario Tennis and Mario Baseball and Mario Golf, Mario 3-on-3 Basketball is going to be a good time. 6 people with DSs playing basketball. This is going to be good stuff.
Because all these games, it's like they take a sports game, the sport itself, but they abstract it to where you can play it in a fun way, like as a video game, but it's still recognizable as the sport, as opposed to the EA sports games, which try to emulate the sport as perfectly as possible, which usually makes a really shitty game.
Yep. Okay, Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2. I don't know if anyone else played Mario vs. Donkey Kong, but let me just tell the story of this game real quick.
I actually have never played it.
I have it. I'll give it to you.
Have you ever played Donkey Kong 3?
Yeah, that's the one where you use the bug spray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right up Donkey Kong's ass.
That's correct. You make him climb up those bamboo sticks. Okay. Yep. Back in the day for the Game Boy, there was a game called Donkey Kong. This was not just a replica of the original Donkey Kong. What it was you played the original Donkey Kong, and after that, there was this other game which involved Mario trying to navigate these dangerous levels to get a key and put it in a door, and eventually at the end, you got Donkey Kong. I don't know, I never played it all the way through, but it were these complex puzzle platformers where it wasn't just, like Mario Brothers. You have to run fast, don't get hit by bad guys, don't fall in holes, and collect coins. It was, solve the puzzle in order to get Mario through. You were still platforming, walking and jumping and climbing ladders, but you had to really think about how to get to the other side of the level by pushing blocks and all that sort of stuff. They brought back this concept only recently with the game called Mario vs. Donkey Kong on the GBA, where Mario has to navigate these dangerous levels in a platform puzzler and collect these present boxes and get a key and open a door, and then every few levels he has to get these mini Marios to follow him around the level and get them into like a treasure chest, which is another difficult type of puzzle. And then after that, Mario has to fight a boss, which is another difficult type of puzzle, but it's also mostly platforming with the bosses. This is going to be... The first Mario vs. DK on the GBA was kind of fun, and I wasn't sad for paying money for it. So if Mario vs. DK 2 for the DS can incorporate enough touchscreen, awesome action to make the puzzles more fun or more difficult and interesting, and if it has enough puzzles, because this could be a game where it's really good, but it's too short and it's not worth the money.
Yeah, kind of like Princess Peach, which I really liked, but now I'm at the end of the game, and I have no desire to beat it.
Yeah. So if this game is long enough, it'll be worth your money to pay for it. If it's not long enough, just get the Game Boy one used, and then get this one used a few years later. New Super Mario Brothers. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks when we get it.
Yeah, we all know this game is going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right before E3, it's like there was no video game news, except they kept releasing little bits about this game.
On the official website, they were releasing a video every few days. And every time they released a video, it got on dig. So this game is going to be insane. I don't think you'll need to pre-order it, but I do suggest you head over to your local game store on Tuesday or Wednesday, so a week from now, and just grab this game the day it comes out, or you'll be sorry.
Now, all told, the DS was exploding for a while. It's like double exploding now.
Yeah, listen to all the things we're saying here. Look at all these DS games coming out. Whatever we're going to say about the other three major consoles, the PSP is dead and the DS is the king. Holy crap. I mean, the PSP is dead as a gaming system, really.
Yeah, it's a cool little piece of technology, and we're really not trying to disparage.
We'll still talk. There's some things to say about it, but
yeah, not much.
Not much. Okay, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue and Red. This looks like it's going to be a real Pokemon game, which we haven't had in a while.
So not just some sort of Pokemon puzzle bullshit?
No, it's actually going to be a Pokemon RPG from the looks of it.
I'm kind of curious because I've never actually played a Pokemon game.
I'll give you Pokemon Red, but you need to play it on a non-DS because it's a Game Boy game.
I got my GBA.
All right. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue is going to be a DS game, and Red is going to be a GBA game. So that's going to be kind of interesting.
I'm sure there's going to be some sort of, if you have them both in a DS, something happens.
I'm almost positive that there's something going to happen trying to sell people both games. I don't know why. If I was going to get it, I would only get the blue one. But the point of this is that unlike the other previous Pokemon RPGs where you were a trainer and you collected Pokemon, in this one, the plot seems to be that you were turned into a Pokemon. So now you're a Pokemon training other Pokemon, but also yourself. So that should be interesting. There's also going to be a DS game called Pokemon Ranger. There isn't a lot of information about it, but just screenshots. It looks like it's going to be Pokemon Stadium DS, which is kind of bleh. All right, you ready, bitches? Motherfucking Star Fox DS.
Woo!
Woo! Woo!
I'm all about that.
I'm going to be flying my R-Wing straight up your ass.
Man, I remember when Star Fox came out for the SNES.
That was fantastic.
They kept hyping up how it was a new technological blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and whether you remember it or not, Star Fox 64 was the game that unveiled the Rumble Pack for the N64, and the multiplayer in that was nothing short of awesome. But Star Fox Adventure and Assault for the GameCube have been moderately disappointing, especially when compared to Star Fox 64, which is holy crap. So here's hoping that Star Fox DS brings back the Star Fox 64 and the SNES Star Fox that we once knew.
We don't know, but I envision various multiplayer, co-op, or competitive wireless actions.
Oh, if it has co-op, that's goddamn.
Yeah.
4 people trying to beat, that would be so great.
If it can be me and my crew as women.
Hey, Nintendo people listening, co-op Star Fox.
Yeah, I'd buy it.
I'd buy it.
We'd all buy it.
All right, you know that Tenchu Ninja whatever game? They're making a DS one. It looks kind of bleh. Yoshi's Island 2. They brought out every Mario game. Well, they brought out Mario 1, Super Mario Brothers, Mario Brothers, non-Super, and the Lost Levels for the Game Boy Color. Then, on the Game Boy Advance, they brought out Doki Doki Panic Mario 2 USA, Mario 3, Mario World, and Yoshi's Island.
I still got to get that Mario 3.
I got to get that Mario 3. So now on the DS, they're bringing out the one missing game, Yoshi's Island 2. Hooray. A lot of people seem to be really happy about that.
Yep.
A lot of people seem to like Yoshi's Island. I never played it that much, but supposedly some people consider Yoshi's Island to be like this amazing platformer of all time. I think I have to play it more to see what they're talking about.
Yeah,
I've only played like the first few levels.
I doubt it's better than Mario 3
or Mario World, but it seems like it's just Mario World, but you can throw eggs. I got to get to the later levels to see if there's anything I'm missing, and I'll play Yoshi's Island 2 to see what's up. And last on my DS list, FFCC DS.
All right. Now, I know we've told the story, but Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles was an amazing game that we played straight through start to finish over the course of a weekend.
It seems that the original Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles for the GameCube suffered because of its Game Boy Connection thing. Now, I thought the Game Boy Connection thing was really cool, but apparently all the people complaining about, oh man, I don't want to have 4 GBAs and 4 friends and all that, even though everyone should have had a GBA already.
Yeah.
That kind of won out. And very rarely were people able to get 4 people to actually play this entire game.
However, if you could pull it off, that was one of the defining gaming experiences of my life.
Yeah.
I put that right up there with like the first time I beat Zelda 2.
So because of that, we'll probably do the same thing with the FFCC DS and the FFCC Wii.
But I can see so much. I mean, FFCC on the DS has one big advantage because the GameCube, the connector for the GBA to be connected to the GameCube was nice, but it was slow, a little high latency. It couldn't really do the high-powered, awesome things you'd want. It was more like a proof of concept.
Yeah, and you couldn't look at the GBA screen and the real screen at the same time so much. It was like you're either looking down or looking up.
And you were really limited by the fact that all the main gameplay was still on the TV. It was hard to hide big things from other players or do interesting things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The DS removes all those limitations.
Yeah, you got 2 screens right in front of your face. The main gameplay is on the top screen, and your inventory and stuff's on the bottom, and whoa.
I mean, imagine this. We don't know exactly what the game will be like, but the only reason they had the busket in FFCC originally was that the players can't stray from each other or the game doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need for that in the DS version.
Yep. And considering the plot, there shouldn't be a need for that.
Now, they might have some sort of thing like that anyway for various, gameplay reasons, but the fact remains that you'll be able to, technologically at least, have multiple players in multiple places simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's the same thing about, the 4 swords that may come for DSs and the Sword of Mana things that'll come out.
Yep. So, that's the DS rundown, or at least the GeekNights DS rundown from E3.
So, the conclusion here, the moral of the DS bit, is that the DS is exploding and awesome and Nintendo plus.
If you don't have a DS right now, I recommend you buy a DS Lite on June 11th.
Or hell, you can get a used regular DS now for like $70.
If you're cheap, go for that one. Hells yeah. But that's how it's going to play out. If you don't have a DS and you go to a convention or a LAN party or anything, all those people with DSs, man, what you going to do?
I can't wait till Otakon. This is
my
gonna be
God.
nuts.
It's going to be insane. Okay.
All right, let's take a break from Nintendo for a bit. We'll be back about the Wii, the Weevolution.
But we're going to take a break. You won't notice because it'll just be a skip in the audio or whatever. Okay, now let's hear from our good friends at Sony.
Now, the Sony abortion of a press conference release whatnot, God, we keep saying whatnot, happened yesterday. It is probably well known that Sony did not really overwhelm anyone with their offerings.
I think every single video game magazine, video game blog, editor, writer, everywhere, the number one word they were using was underwhelming.
Yes, I saw the word tepid response in more than one report.
So this isn't, don't say, oh, you Nintendo fanboys, even though we are sort of Nintendo fanboys, kinda.
Sony fanboys at the Sony thing who have been waiting for this since they first heard that there was going to be PS3, when a PS3 was a glimmer in some executive's eye. They were there, and they didn't even clap.
Now, we're not saying there aren't any Sony fanboys who are all about this, because there are plenty who are all about this. We're just saying that the general mood of the marketplace and the media, gaming media, seems to be Oh, bleh.
Non-gaming media was even bleh about this. Media that don't know anything about the gaming market and were just reporting on what Sony's doing because they're a company.
Now, when it comes, let's first talk about the clapping.
All right, so Sony comes out and they're like, here's all our stuff. And they unveil little bits and they show little preview things. But mostly they just talk numbers. Numbers that gamers don't care about.
And when Sony talks about numbers, they always talks about shipments. They don't talk about sales, they talk about shipments.
They're like, we've shipped X PSPs and we've shipped X PS2s, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And they've shipped a lot of PSPs, but they haven't sold a lot of them.
I like to point out that at the Sony conference, if you watch it or look at pictures of it, it's this giant screen with what is obviously
a PowerPoint. And they've just got numbers.
They got a lot of numbers and a lot of bullet points, and it's kind of bleh. At the Nintendo thing, they had the friggin' giant Nintendo logo with the lights behind it that was always there.
They had the friggin' Miyamoto conducting that orchestra.
Yeah, they're learning from Apple. Sony is still doing their boring old businessman show. Even Microsoft put on a better show. Microsoft show's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see
Sony
myself buying an Xbox 360 anytime soon, but Microsoft, I'm kind of impressed with the Xbox 360 in general.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in some of the stuff they're offering. The Sony, I can understand their business strategies and such, but a company with 100...
All right, Scott, understanding Sony's business practices is like understanding why a crazy guy keeps hitting himself in the head with a hammer.
Because he's crazy. Okay, so... Let's, where can we start with Sony?
Well, we'll keep going with the clapping here. It's a nice thread.
All right.
So then they announced the price point of the PlayStation 3. And for anyone who doesn't know, it is $600.
It's $600. All right, there are two different PS3s that you can buy. One of the PS3s is $600, and one of them is $500. Now the $600 one has a 60 gig hard drive and has everything. The 20 gig the $500 one only has a 20 gig hard drive. I guess maybe that doesn't make a big difference. It might if you have a lot of games. I don't know.
Well, considering that a Blu-ray disc can hold like 35 gigabytes.
Yeah, so this isn't such a bit, whatever. The 20 gig one, the other problem with it is that it does not have a slot to put in flash cards like SD flash, memory sticks, etc.
Yep.
That's a fucker because how are you supposed to integrate it with your PSP and shit?
It's also missing the HDMI port.
It doesn't have the HDMI port, and it doesn't have a wireless card.
Yeah, so basically...
So you have to plug it in with an Ethernet cable if you don't buy the $600 one.
I can't see anyone buying the $500 one, except for people who are so poor they can't afford a PS3, but they just have enough money to buy the $500 one. It doesn't even look like it's going to be upgradable. And
I want to talk about the Engadget. What they said, and I think it rings pretty true, is they said if the freehand, Wii controller is Nintendo's selling point on the Wii, then the HD is the selling point on the PS3. And if the cheaper $500 one doesn't have the HDMI port, it's like if they had two different versions of the Wii and one of them just came with GameCube controllers. I gotta hand it to Sony. When they announced this, it made the Xbox 360 look affordable to me. It made it look reasonable, and it made it look pretty good. Because now I think, hey, for $400, I can get a badass Xbox 360, and there's some games I'm actually kind of interested in now. And when we talk about the Xbox 360, you'll see they got a lot of new stuff in the line that makes me go, maybe this isn't all ass. Maybe I'll move into that area. Well, honestly, I'm thinking that the Xbox 360, not now, but within a year, I could see myself buying one at a slight discount. Maybe a used one, or the streamlined re-release they're going to have. Yeah, when we'll see. We'll see. Not only is the PlayStation 3, the real one, $600, because we're not going to talk about the GIMP version. Yeah. It's 600 euros in Europe. Yeah, so usually, because euros are worth more than dollars. And quite a bit more. And pounds are worth a lot more than dollars. Like £1 is like $1.60 something. It's a lot of money. Well, honestly, there's a bunch of extra news about that because I don't want to get off on a tangent, but China and Asia in general, if for a long time said, we might not peg the yuan to the dollar anymore, what are you going to do? But no, everyone knew they wouldn't. Now it looks like they're really going to do it. So the dollar's been dropping, more so than usual. Good. I've been waiting for them to unpeg it. That's what I want.
Yeah, well, it'll be good for everyone in the world except Americans.
Woohoo! All right, so
anyway.
So that's kind of annoying, is that the Europeans and people who are, they're pretty big on the PS3. That's the system that in other parts of the world is PlayStation. They're really big on Nintendo in Europe so much.
Though I think they will be now.
They might be. We'll see.
It costs the equivalent of almost $800 for the PS3 in Europe.
I have a feeling that the Europe and the rest of the world outside of Japan and the U.S. and North America and places is going to be real big on the Xbox, and I'll explain why in a little bit.
$800 for the cost. Well, here, look at the $600 figure. For the cost of the PS3, I could probably buy a Revolution Wii, a Wiivolution, another one for my other kid if I had a kid, so the two kids wouldn't fight over it.
And how many DSs? How many DS Lites?
Oh, God, don't even hear you say that. Or you could buy one Revolution and 8 or 9 games for it.
Yeah. So, way to go, Sony. And you can get all 4 controllers for your Revolution, too. I mean, your Wii.
Yeah, keep in mind that this $600 figure, as far as we can tell, only comes with the system and one controller.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
let's talk about that controller.
Okay, the fact that it costs $600 is not the bad news.
Okay.
The controller. Now, remember way back they had that, they showed us the boomerang version of the controller, and they said this is going to be the controller.
And then I had a really popular thing on my blog where I found in an old GamePro magazine there was a boomerang controller back in the day, and I posted a picture like, Sony ripped off these other people who made a boomerang controller.
Well, instead, Sony ripped off themselves. It looks exactly like the DualShock with an extra button.
It is the DualShock controller and has an extra PlayStation button right in the middle of it.
Except it doesn't have the DualShock in it. They took it out.
Well, I think that's because they got sued, remember, about two vibrators?
They could have put a different thing in because Nintendo doesn't infringe, and it would have been trivial to make a Rumble thing that didn't infringe on that patent.
Yep, but there is another reason why there is no rumbling going on.
Now, before we say the reason, I'm sure some of you know.
I'm sure everyone knows.
Consider that part of the reason people like the DualShock is that it had rumbling in it. That was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that there's no rumble at all really isn't great.
It's really rumbling is one of those things where when it came out on Star Fox 64, like I said, I was kind of blag because you needed this rumble pack to pay extra money, and I was like, that doesn't do anything. It's just a gimmicky crap. It doesn't enhance the game in any way. But after playing a lot of GameCube games, especially Metroids and Eternal Darknesses and Resident Evils,
yeah, even F-Zero.
Yeah, even F-Zero.
If you use some people use rumble stupidly.
Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, it'll be super rumble or off. But if you make the subtle little rumbles, like you're driving a car and there's this tiny subtle rumble.
Mario Party uses it well, even.
Yeah.
But yeah, rumbling can make a game really good in a way you don't even notice the rumbling, but it enhances, through your feeling senses in your hands. You'll be worried about something, or you'll take a hit and then it'll shake. And you won't think consciously, oh, it's rumbling, ooh, look at this, because you're not paying attention to rumble packs anymore now that they're inside the controller where you can't see them. On the N64, you'd pay attention. Now you don't pay attention, but without it, you notice when it's gone. You go, oh, it's not rumbling as soon as it's not there.
Yeah, it really adds to the immersion in the game.
Yep.
Well, Sony got rid of that.
Yep.
They pissed on that game.
The reason they got rid of that is because they've put in 3 axes of accelerometers inside the controller.
Sony, who said repeatedly that the Revolution was stupid and that their innovative controller was just a bullshit gimmick, ripped the gimmick off blatantly.
Well, people are saying on the internet that they're not ripping off Nintendo, because what Nintendo has done is in the the nunchuck part of the Revolution of the Wii controller actually has the same or an equivalent accelerometer setup to what the PS3 controller is going to have, where you can tell when you tilt it forward, back, left and right, and wiggle it up and down. But it can't tell where you're aiming it, and it can't tell where it is relative in space. The Revolution controller, the actual Wiivolution stick, the what are we calling it? What are we calling it now?
Let's call it the stick.
Oh, the Wiimote.
Wiimote.
So the Wiimote can actually tell where it is in space, so it's a pointing device. You can aim with it. You can swing it as opposed to just tilting it. So the PlayStation controller will probably be good for racing games, flying games, etc. But it's not going to be good for shooting games.
Now, you might think that,
sword
but
fighting games.
by the same token, I'll note that controllers like that, and Microsoft brought this up right away when they were asked about what they thought of Sony's controller. They made controllers like that a long time ago.
They did.
And they found
Logitech and Microsoft made them for the PC.
And there were even games that made use of it. And they found that having a standard controller, the type of controller you hold in two hands, like, every controller out there except the Wii, doesn't really work so well. It's not intuitive or easy to manipulate it in such a way that you can control a game. It's just annoying and hurts your wrists.
Because you're trying to do that while also trying to manage all the buttons. People who had experience using the PlayStation 3 controller at the show said that they didn't know where to put their thumb. Should they put them on the analog sticks, take them off? They couldn't figure out what the hell to do with it. So
also, accelerometers and things like that in controllers of that level, low-end consumer technology, they're not the most accurate thing. So it's kind of, I don't think it's very awkward to play with a controller like that.
Mm-hmm.
And think about how many people, when they play games, just subconsciously move the controller around while they're playing.
Well, that's good, because that's what you want people to do, is people move the controller while they play. It's something you naturally did back in the NES. That even said that during Nintendo's conferences. Do you remember back when you had an NES and, the first time you picked it up, you would tilt the controller or, pull it back naturally because you wanted your guy to move that way?
God, my little brother, I should try to find some old home videos. But, we were both really big gamers when we were kids. And I would sit there and play, and I'd move the controller around. He would stand in front of the TV and have this full body motion. Like when he was cornering, his whole body would bend and he'd hold the controller up.
Wow.
It worked for him, but
yeah. So the point of the Revolution controller, the Wiimote, is that you can take people's natural body movement and turn that into the game control. So that's what you have to go for. The thing is that the way the Sony is going to do it isn't going to work so well because, for example, it can tell when it's being tilted, but it can't tell if you hold it tilted. So let's say I'm playing a racing game, right? So I tilt it to the right to turn right, and I hold it in a tilted right position. You're going to have to do some wicked programming to know that I'm still holding it tilted right.
And even if you do that programming,
it only can tell when it's moving. It can't tell if it's what its orientation is at any given time.
Plus, with a system like that, if you don't make it really well and put a lot of time in the development process, it's not going to be intuitive. It's going to be awkward because it won't mesh up perfectly with the game.
I think a lot of PlayStation games just aren't going to use it at all.
Well, considering that it really looks like they threw this feature in at the last minute.
That's the other thing. It seems a lot of the things that Sony does, it doesn't look like they're testing it on people. It seems that I don't know what their attitude is, but the way it looks to me is that because they're so big and number one, they're just like, anything with the PlayStation name will sell a bajillion. We don't actually have to make something quality or new or anything. We can just, copy a little bit of the Xbox people and what they're doing so that they don't beat us in that department, and copy a little bit of what the Nintendo's doing so they don't beat us in that department.
Yeah, that way in the marketing they can say, yeah, we have motion control whatnot. They'll probably call it something just like the Revolution.
Yeah, it's like we got everything. We got what they got, we got what they got. We're number one. We can do it all by us. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what else they got going on. The PlayStation 3 will come out November 11th in Japan and November 17th in the USA. My brother's birthday is November 17th.
Huh. I'm honestly surprised they even made that date.
Yeah, I think I remember the other PlayStations coming out, or there was some other stuff that came out around that time, because I remember it was like my brother's birthday, and then something would come out, and then he would go get it. I don't know what it was. It might have been a PlayStation 2, I don't remember. We should look up the PS2 release date.
Though I do remember that when they had the guy on stage with that controller, just to go back to the controller a bit, and they showed him playing this game, it didn't look like it worked.
Well, I think it did work. It just,
no, just
I think they were doing a
well.
demo, a fake demo, just like all their other demos are fake.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if they faked it, it looked like it was real and just bad. Like, it looked like the guy had a hard time making it control the game properly.
Mm-hmm. That's something else I want to point out right away. At the Sony conference, most of the videos that they showed, because they didn't show all that much real gameplay, were videos of pre-rendered stuff that...
Oh, God, we'll get to that.
Yeah. They were bullshots.
Ah, Penny Arcade.
They were just
cromulent word.
pre-rendered CG videos. They weren't videos of what the game is like. You know, the Metal Gear Solid thing, it's pretty cool, but that's not what the game looks like. That's just a video.
Nintendo was this is what the gameplay will look like.
Yeah, I don't think Nintendo showed a single video. Everything they showed on the screen, the only pre-rendered animation they showed was the little eyes that were dancing around, the Wii logo.
And there's no Wii Dancing Eye game.
Yeah. Everything they showed was either video from a game or video of models, playing with Wii controllers to show you what it's like to play the game. They didn't show anything else. Maybe a Nintendo logo or two.
Yeah, and even the games they showed that may not be done yet, where it might have been kind of tweaked, it was definitely at least the level of graphics that'll be in the game.
Yep.
Now, Sony, they announced all their games and they showed them. Now, Metal Gear Solid 4 is the one game that seems to have been generating a lot of buzz. That and Gran Turismo HD.
Yep.
Now,
Gran Turismo HD is not going to be a game, so I'm going to talk about that.
Yeah, I was going to get to that, but I want to do MSG first.
All right.
Because I was excited about
MGS.
Yeah, whatever. I want some MSG. I'm kind of hungry.
Mm.
But I was kind of excited about it because I haven't played any of these new Metal Gear games, but I like Metal Gear. I like the franchise. I mostly like the story, and I like the gameplay. I like the idea of the games.
I like the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid type games, actually. The stealth, sneak around, shoot guys games. There seem to be a lot more of those now. Isn't the Splinter Cells like that, right?
Yeah, and some missions.
Yeah. I haven't actually played any of the Splinter Cells. Maybe I should get around to that.
Because Metal Gear, when it came out for the NES, was really the first big game that had gameplay like that, where you were a military guy and your goal was to hide from your enemies at all costs.
I think it was a Metal Gear Solid for the GameCube. I should go pick that up now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why we didn't buy it. I love those games, but anyway. Yeah. So Metal Gear Solid 4, and there's been little tiny bits of buzz that this game is going to be like the end all. So then they show the stuff about it at E3. They did not show, as far as I can tell, a single second, not even one frame of gameplay.
Nope.
What it was an awesome trailer for a movie. If they were making Metal Gear Solid 4 the movie, that's a badass movie, and I'd go see it immediately.
Oh, hell yeah.
Much
better than Uwe Ball.
Yeah, it looks like an awesome plot and an awesome movie. I don't know if there's a game there.
We haven't seen a game. If there is, they're not showing it to us.
The crowd certainly reacted to the final shot of the trailer, which showed Solid Snake as an old man. It's definitely a old man disillusioned with all that he's done in his life and warfare and killing. And it ends with him putting a gun in his mouth and he's about to kill himself.
Yeah.
And the crowd really reacted to that.
Yeah. But they reacted more to the fact that it was Solid Snake going to kill himself than, oh my God, this game.
Because they didn't show the game.
I know.
They basically said, hey, here's the plot of the game we're coming out with.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of things that PlayStation games have going for them as plots. It's mostly RPGs and games with, these heavy sorts of plots on them. The thing's going to have a freaking Blu-ray drive. That's what you put movies on. That's what Sony's all about. Yep,
the problem is whenever they have these plots in these games, it seems more and more that the plot is play a game and then watch an FMV that has plot, and then play more game and then watch an FMV. You got to have the games that integrate the plot with the game, like Half-Life did.
Like Half-Life.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some of the other things that went down.
Gran Turismo?
Yeah, Gran Turismo HD. Now, I never actually played Gran Turismo 4, so I didn't know what it looked like. When I saw Gran Turismo HD, I said, wow, I'm actually freaking interested in that.
Yeah,
that looks like the best racing game ever.
We've been playing Gran Turismo, 2? On our PlayStation 1?
Yeah, it's not so good nowadays. But I really like racing games, and it seems like the only thing Nintendo is seriously lacking in is real racing games. We got Mario Karts, and we got, Diddy Kong Racing DS. Forgot that one, but
yeah,
that's going to be pretty cool. Nintendo doesn't have the realistic racing games. Really at all. I mean, there was R Racing Revolution for the GameCube. That sucked. It wasn't good at all. PlayStation's got their Ridge Racers and their Gran Turismos, and Microsoft has their Forzas and their, what's it called? Project Gothams.
Yeah, though when we get to Microsoft, we'll talk about that. I think Microsoft is going to win the realistic gaming trophy.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm all about these racing games. So when I saw Gran Turismo HD, I was like, ooh, that looks like the best damn racing game ever. Apparently, what Gran Turismo HD is not a game. What it was, they took Gran Turismo 4, and they did something to it to make it go 1080i resolution. So all it was a prototype game designed to show you, yes, look at this. The PlayStation 3 can do a full HD game in real time. Look at it go. There it is. And all it tells me is, hey, that looks really good. I'm going to get Gran Turismo 4 for the PS2.
Yeah.
Because I don't have an HD TV.
And even if we did, I mean, the HD doesn't really seem to be a good selling point on a console.
Well, here's something that people there seem to all agree upon, because I wasn't there and I didn't see this. That there were some shots and videos of actual gameplay on the PS3, and they looked really good. But people seem to say that they didn't really look that much better, or sometimes not as good as what the Xbox 360 looks like.
Huh.
I wonder. I mean, I don't care about the graphics in a game. The graphics are, not so important. It's the game that matters.
Well, as long as the graphics don't get in the way of the game.
But when you're Sony and you keep bragging about the graphics so much, and then they're not that super amazing as you've been saying, or they don't. At least it doesn't matter how super amazing they are if people don't go along with what you're saying and they say, yeah, no, I'm not really impressed. Well, you got a problem.
Maybe it's getting to the point where, diminishing returns. I mean, 720p is really nice, and it is better than what we've got now. Our crappy NTSC, whatnot. But once you get to 1080i and 1080p, the difference isn't quite as noticeable. And as you get beyond that, there's no difference as far as human eyes can tell, unless you've got a 1,000-foot screen.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. I mean, it looks really nice, but I don't think that it's that super amazing that people are going to say, oh my God, the PS3 blows the Xbox 360 out of the water on graphics. It's the winner in that fight.
It really doesn't.
They're both pretty much tied in that fight. And as always, computers are going to win. And I'm going to get to why that's real important when I talk about Microsoft.
Yep. So all in all, Sony really didn't impress anyone.
Well, no, here's the stuff that they had that I thought was good.
Oh?
They had a thing with the iToy. The iToy, if you don't know, is this camera you can get for your PS2.
Oh, yeah.
And the iToy had some pretty crummy games. I don't think anyone actually bought them or used them. But they did a demo, which they should have put a lot more emphasis on. It seems sort of like they did this and said, look, we have this, but then they didn't really play it out, and make a big deal out of it. What it is the iToy looks at this table, and you put cards down on the table, and sort of like Yu-Gi-Oh!, the iToy sees the cards and it makes monsters. And then you can gesture with your hands, and the iToy will see your gestures, and you can command your monsters on the table to play a cool game. In a Yu-Gi-Oh! Type of style. I think that's something really good that Sony should try more of that shit.
Yeah.
That'd be a whole lot of fun.
They're the company who, decried Nintendo for being gimmicky. And while this is cool, it is definitely gimmicky.
No, I think gimmicky means at least to me, gimmicky means you have some sort of trick that doesn't actually enhance the thing itself. If you put here's in the golf clubs are the most gimmicky things in the world. Someone will say, check out this golf club. It has this awesomely shaped head with titanium insert something.
Yep. You know what kills the golf argument right away?
Mm-hmm.
Have golf scores decreased in a trend as technology of golfing and golf clubs has increased?
Yes, but the point is...
Not that much.
Is that you look at the golf club and it has this fancy doodad on it. But the fancy doodad doesn't actually do anything. But here, that's why people say that the DS was so gimmicky, because it had all these fancy doodads, like a microphone and a touchscreen. The problem is they do something.
Yeah,
so they're not gimmicks.
I guess I wonder if Sony has the support to actually use that in a non-gimmicky way on more than a handful of games.
See, that's the thing, is they could do it on a handful of games, and it wouldn't be gimmicky if they actually used it in this way. The problem is... will they do it on enough games to make it a wise economic decision to buy an iToy and buy these games? It could be a Super Scope, where the Super Scope wasn't gimmicky, but it just didn't have enough games to make it worth buying.
Yeah, I just don't see the developers getting behind it. And plus, I wonder what type of development, because obviously developing for something like this is not the same as developing for the PlayStation itself.
No.
Of course, they also have the problem that the PlayStation is using those IBM cell processors.
Mm-hmm.
and I could talk at length about the pros and cons of that and what IBM's strategy, in my eyes as a former employee, even though I'm still working there, was regarding it. But I can say that developing for the PlayStation 3 is not easy. It is not trivial. It is not something people can do without a lot of work.
Well, the problem is that people are used to programming in a certain way, and the cell processors have a different architecture than most other chips that people are used to, so you have to program for it in an all-new way, and that to make it easier, Sony could provide a lot of tools, but even they really don't know how to program for it so well. So it's like this whole new territory, and it's going to take them a lot of time to develop tools, and then to use those tools to develop better games, and it's...
Meanwhile, now the people who developed for the PS2 are still making PS2 games because they've got that down pat.
I read somewhere today, I can't verify this 100%, that there will be 216 new PlayStation 2 games by the end of the year.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I remember I read an article a few weeks ago where some company had 2 games that were going to be PS3 games that they just said, fuck it, because the PS3 was delayed and there were trouble with the dev kits, and they made them PS2 games.
Yeah, now here's something to compare this to Nintendo and Microsoft. Microsoft, if you want to make a game for the Xbox 360, it's DirectX.
Everyone knows DirectX.
It's always been DirectX.
DirectX is well documented.
It's almost exactly like making a game for Windows. Everyone knows how to do it. You can buy a book on it in the store.
Yep, it's well documented, well understood. We could teach anyone out there how to do a trivial game.
Yep. Nintendo. Now, it's not publicly available information how to make Nintendo games for their hardware, but if you are able to get a development kit from them, they give you everything you need. In fact, just today at the press conference, they were saying, and no one's going to have to write this code because we wrote the network stack and we'll just give it to all the developers.
Yep. Also, they've said that the Nintendo Wii and the way you write software for it is very similar to the way you write software for the GameCube.
Oh, it's almost the early dev kits for the Wii were all just GameCubes with attachments to hook up the Wii controllers.
Because, I mean, the only real difference is that it's more powerful.
And it has more peripherals.
Yeah, so you have more...
And it has a different disk that holds more storage.
So you have more options for input, more options for storage, and more power.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, the
network
API,
card.
The API is the same. You still have hitting a button, it calls this thing or does this thing.
The PS3 is a whole new world, and I think that what might see happen is the PS3 isn't going to bomb and kill Sony like the Dreamcast or anything like that. I mean,
it's hard to kill Sony.
There are enough people out there who really, really want it and want the games that are on it, and they're going to make money, I guess. But eventually what's going to happen over time is there's a chance that as developers learn how to make PlayStation 3 games, that you'll start to see like the second or third round of PS3 games coming out will start to get graphics that are way better than the Microsoft Xbox, and gameplay that takes advantage of the tilty controller and all that sort of stuff.
However, I see that as definitely a situation of too little too late, and it won't tank, but I really think the PS3 is going to be the trailing third console in the war. Well, quote-unquote war. It'll
definitely, I think, the PS3 not do as well as the Xbox 360 overall. At the very least, it won't completely demolish the other systems the way it did in the previous generation. It'll be on par with the Xbox 360 at most.
Yeah, and my prediction is that it will be the trailing console. It's going to be playing catch-up with Nintendo and Microsoft.
All right. So here's some other interesting tidbits that Sony went over.
Didn't they say they're going to have 2 million of them right away?
Oh, yeah. There'll be 2 million right away, and then 4 million a little while later, and then like 8 million a little while later.
Now, I saw a few reports of people said, no, they only have 1 million, but I don't know. I didn't chase any of that down.
Yeah, who knows how many they have, but that's how many they said they'd have.
Now, I wonder, because the Xbox sold out right away, and there were supply problems, but it wasn't as expensive as the PlayStation 3.
Actually, Microsoft did a good comparison at their conference of, like, sales per unit time and all that, and how the Xbox 360 actually kind of beat the iPod, but the iPod was sort of a slow, gradual build up to a bigger number than, but the rate of sales to the Xbox 360 in its early days was like tremendous, more than anything ever.
Yeah.
Insane.
However, that was partly because there was a number of them, and there was a number greater than that number of people who would pay any price to have one.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much the sales were instant, and then there were no more.
Yep.
But now they're back on the market, and they're not really moving so fast.
Nope, not so much. But
I mean,
think they will as soon as the next round of Xbox 360 goodies goes out.
Especially when the new Xbox 360s come out.
Yeah, and in the holiday season, expect a lot of Xbox 360s to start moving for all the people who didn't buy one for their kids yet. Of
course, the revolution might really put a dent into that, especially as the economy gets the way it's going.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
The PSP is going to... They didn't really explain this, but the online service for the PlayStation 3, the equivalent of Xbox Live, is going to have some stuff. It's going to have some, cool games you download and video chat with people, and they're going to make the whole big community thing. They're going to try to do everything that Xbox Live does, but their main thing is the inclusion of the rest of Sony's business of music and movies and all that shit. So some of the stuff they're going to do is download a video and watch it.
Yeah, well, they'd better do something like that. UMD, as a movie format, is dead.
Yeah, download something to a memory stick and put it in your PSP.
Oh, the thing we wanted from the start?
Yeah. Well, of course, you'll be paying for it through the PlayStation online service and then DRMing it to the memory stick and all that, right? There's going to be one thing. I didn't read all the details. What it sounds like to me is you'll be able to take and pay for a PlayStation 1 game, download it to a memory stick, shove it in your PSP, and play it.
Huh.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
With a little emulator thing. And they said that there'll be like a firmware coming up that supports it.
Of course, for me, if I had a PSP, I'd just hack it up with the old firmware and just have an NES, SNES emulator in there.
Mm-hmm. And they said there'll be some sort of micro-payment system, so you'll buy these Sony cards, not the Sony credit card that I have, but the regular, like a little clear card, and then you can use that card to buy things on the Sony online service. And
I don't like how Sony really seems to like the idea of just constantly ringing all their customers for money as long as they own a PlayStation 3.
Well, Microsoft is doing a similar thing with Xbox
Oh, I don't like
Live.
that anymore.
Yeah. One of the examples they showed of, it is probably the best example of how this thing is going to work, is the SingStar Karaoke. Now, what this looked like is they didn't actually have any prices on it, but it's a karaoke game where you would go online to this, site or place interface in the Sony Online thing with your PS3, and you can pick songs and karaoke them. And the thing is you would pay to get more songs. So, it's like, oh, I want to karaoke that song now. You pay like 25 cents or whatever. They didn't show any prices on it. Everything was like $0.000. And this is, you get the music video, and you get the words, and you get the song. And now you've got it, and you can karaoke it and all that. So we'll see how well that works, consider. Do people really want to keep paying for more karaoke songs? I don't know. We'll see. But that's the example of how they're combining their music business and their PlayStation business into this one sort of media. They're really going more towards the media thing and not so much, I don't know.
I just think they're going in too many directions at once, which they always seem to try to do now.
Well, here's another thing you got to remember. Remember when the PlayStation 1 came out and they had the E3 conference for that? They said all this stuff and they only did some of it. When the PlayStation 2 came out, they said they were going to do all this stuff and they only did some of it.
Huh, trend.
I guarantee that not all the stuff Sony said they were going to do with the PS3 today will be done. A lot of it is just never going to happen.
It seems like they fish. Like, they'll throw out a bunch of stuff, see what people react to, and then react accordingly.
Mm-hmm. And they see what everyone else does, and then they do that.
Yeah.
I don't think they actually have like a guiding vision. Like, there's no one at Sony who's thinking and planning about what to do. They're just doing. Like, going through the motions. Anyway, let's talk about... I'm not going to go through all the games on the PS3 and what's going to come out on it, just like we did for the DS.
We can do the big ones.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 13.
Well, hold on. I want to talk about that last. Let me just say, here are 5 of the games coming out for the PS3. Metal Gear Solid 4, Tekken 6, Virtua Fighter 5, Virtua Tennis 3, Ridge Racer 7. What do those games all have in common? Metal Gear Solid 4, Tekken 6, Virtua Fighter 5, Virtua Tennis 3,
See
Ridge
the pattern
Racer
yet?
7.
See a pattern?
Where are the games that are original? Now, granted, there were a few original games that were named, but there were plenty of games. The vast majority of games were incredible CCCC sequels or such and such : a new name. Like Resident Evil Code Veronica isn't a number, but it's a sequel.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. So where are the new franchises, the new games, the new whatnots?
Sony doesn't make new franchises.
No, they don't. It's all up to the third parties. And the third parties, it's the same old PlayStation 3. The controller looks like the same old thing. They're going to make the same old thing for it and see how long they can just keep making money that way.
Yep.
And it'll probably work. I don't know how much longer it will work. If it works for this generation, I don't see it working for yet another generation of games. So they've got less than 5 years to come up with something new.
Well, consider the Final Fantasy 13 trailer they showed.
Let's talk about Final Fantasy 13, and then we're done with Sony.
It didn't, I saw it, and I watched it, and I thought, that looks like every other Final Fantasy game ever, except for the originals. It's just...
It looks like every Final Fantasy since 8.
Yeah, just, look, there's an FMV of a girl doing something awesome, and there's a lot of choreography, and, it's all intense and futuristic. That's it.
Now, here's the thing about Final Fantasy 13 is there's going to be at least 3 versions of it. There's going to be, from what I've heard, this isn't solid, there's going to be the actual game, Final Fantasy 13. There's going to be another game, Final Fantasy 13 Versus, for the PlayStation 3, which I suppose will be some sort of you fight your guys against someone else's guys and see who's better.
Yeah, we don't have any details.
Maybe a fighting game using the characters. I don't know. There's going to be some sort of cell phone Final Fantasy 13 game. Don't ask me what that's about.
Yeah, I really can't imagine. Unless maybe it's a mini game in the game.
Yeah, they're really, because Final Fantasy, the real Final Fantasy games, quote, are really the big thing that sell PlayStations. I mean, the PlayStation 1 would have been another Dreamcast 3DO if it wasn't for Final Fantasy 7, and everybody knows it. That's the only reason the PlayStation is so huge today is because of Final Fantasy 7.
Just think, if Nintendo and Square had patched up and not been fighting, there's a chance Nintendo would have just continued to be the behemoth that it used to be.
Yep, it was all Square Enix's fault. 100%, everyone knows. So now, since Final Fantasy seems to be the only thing they've got, and it was the thing that they started with, they're trying to make it as big as possible and milk it for everything they got. I mean, they got Metal Gear also, but it's really not much.
We didn't see any gameplay. We just saw a woman shoot a bunch of people with an Uzi.
Yep.
That's it. Oh, and there was a train going through a futuristic smog-filled city.
Sounds like Final Fantasy to me.
Yeah.
So, whether Final Fantasy 13 is good or not, I mean, didn't a bunch of people complain about the Final Fantasy 12? We still don't have that over here, do we? Or do we?
I don't know.
That was the one that came out in Japan, and the combat was different, right?
The last Final Fantasy I played.
11 was the MMO. 12 was the one with the weird combat that scored a perfect score in Famitsu.
9 was the nod to old school. 8 was the one that was just a movie. 7 was the bridge.
Mm-hmm. So, where is 12 out in the U.S.? I don't even know. The fact that there isn't a whole lot of crazy talk about Final Fantasy 12 since it came out in Japan, at least not that I've heard on any major gaming, general gaming sites. Maybe this isn't gonna, are people less interested in Final Fantasy now? Or are they still crazy about it? I don't know.
Now, one thing that we noticed, who was it who said the thing about female protagonists? Was that Joystick?
I don't know, some site.
Yeah, some people said that, wow, a Final Fantasy game with a female protagonist.
Obviously, you haven't played Final Fantasy VI.
Final Fantasy VI, the 2 primary protagonists, the 2 mainest of main characters, are women.
In fact, the first character you see in the game is a woman, not counting the 2 nobodies that she's with.
The first half of the game, you follow one woman around most of the game doing things, and she is definitely the plot mover. Then, the game changes it up, and now you follow this other woman through the whole game.
Final Fantasy VI. I guess it's just, in Final Fantasy VI, if you are short-sighted, you can see what's the guy, Locke?
Yeah, Locke and Edgar, but
yeah, you can look at them because Final Fantasy VI didn't have no one character really stood out super strongly above the others. You're right in that what's her name, the Esper girl. Right?
Spoiler!
Oh
no, we have a funny story about that for another day.
Yeah, it's for another. We should do a day on spoilers.
We should.
Okay,
but
so
Terra she was the main character if you look at it from like a literary work of art way.
That's correct, but she wasn't so incredibly more main than the other characters. Like, if you watch an anime like Trigun, Vash the Stampede is so more main than anyone else in the show. But if you watch a show like Gundam Seed Destiny, from what I've heard, so this is probably not the best example, but from what I've heard, in Gundam Seed Destiny, there's a guy who's supposedly the main character, but like the good characters from the old Gundam Seed come around, and they're more main, and it's hard to tell. Yeah. So,
of course, in the second half of Final Fantasy VI, there's no doubt one character is the only force in the game at that point.
Yep.
And everyone else is just side characters until the final movies.
So, Final Fantasy XIII, however, it seems that there's going to be one female who is as main as Cloud was in Final Fantasy VII, which I guess that's kind of a first if you don't count Final Fantasy X2 was all girls, right?
I don't know.
I guess. That's what I heard.
So I guess if you don't count the second half of Final Fantasy VI, then they're kind of right.
Kinda. But yeah, a female protagonist is not a big deal unless you're a perverted fan.
Now, here's the thing. I don't think that they made the distinction like we did. I think they just didn't remember or know about Final Fantasy VI.
Maybe.
I think they're just young punks.
They seem to remember about 4 and 5.
But not many people remember 5, because 5 was not available until recently.
That's true.
In fact, I got a ROM of 5 a long time ago that I played, and it was like this crazy deal. Like, I went around my school with CD-ROMs with it, giving it to people, and they were like, oh my god, where did you get this?
Yep. All right, I think we're done Sony bashing. Let's talk about the Wii.
All right, we've gone on for about an hour and a half here, and we've got at least another hour to talk about E3.
I really don't mind finishing off and making a crazy long episode, but Rim is wussing out.
No, it's more that one, our listeners always say they want longer episodes. I don't think they would listen to all of it, or they would generally be annoyed if we put out a 3-hour episode.
I say if they want longer episodes, we should give them what they want and then see whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
You don't know until you try.
Nah, it's also a pain in the ass because it's hard to upload things to Libsyn that are that big.
That's true. That's true.
And it's late, and while I wouldn't normally be tired because I'm actually skipping work tomorrow anyway.
You're skipping work tomorrow?
Yeah, I got a dentist appointment and a doctor's appointment and an appointment with my new job.
Awesome.
I'm going into work for like an hour.
Awesome.
I might not even go at all. I'm not sure yet.
I wouldn't go at all.
It's more that, we'll ask you. We're going to do the rest of the show on Thursday.
Yeah, so for anyone who subscribes, listen, just the Tuesday podcast, you need to come to frontrowcrew.com on Thursday if you want to hear us talk about the Wii and Microsoft and what they had to say.
I may put it in a category so that it'll show up in both days, but I'm really leery of doing that, and I probably won't end up actually doing that.
Yeah. So Thursday, you'll hear the rest of this episode, and it's not, remember, it was all Rim. So if you wanted a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, let us know.
If you wanted the 3-hour podcast, put all your blame on Rim for not doing it, and
I'll take it gladly.
Tell him how, wussy he is for not doing it. If you didn't want the 3-hour podcast, say, come and tell us that, hey, Rim was right. We didn't want a 3-hour podcast. I can't wait till Thursday.
Because basically, I just worry that if it's that long, I mean, maybe people with small MP3 players will have trouble with it, or downloading it for people with not the greatest connections will have trouble.
Maybe.
Yeah.
There are plenty of, I don't know. I wonder what the longest podcast ever is.
I don't know. I'm going to look into that.
We should break the freaking record, dude.
You know what? If there is a record, I could easily break it. I can generate infinite data.
Yeah.
I could probably make a thing that if you connected to it, it would just constantly stream audio to you forever. That would be fairly trivial to do.
Yeah, but would it count as a podcast?
I don't know. But actually, I will spend some time tomorrow looking into how people with really, really, really long podcasts deal with it.
Yeah, I haven't really seen any podcasts long. I think the longest podcast I've ever seen is like an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, and we're getting somewhat close to that already.
Okay.
So it's kind of I don't want to suddenly foist a giant one on you if it'll cause problems.
Mm-hmm.
That's my rationale.
So for everyone so desperate to hear what Rim and Scott have to say about the Wii and the Microsoft and everything Microsoft had to say about Vista and the Xbox 360 and the rest of their games, you're going to have to wait till Thursday, because Rim's a wuss.
We'll see. We'll see what they have to say, whether they think it was a good idea or not.
We'll see if they're even still listening at this point, but then I guess we know the answer, don't we?
Yeah.
So, you know how you want to tell us. You want to send an email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com.
Or an audio feedback to that email, which we may or may not play.
Or you want to go to frontrowcrew.com/forum and join our forum, or if you're already joined in it, post stuff.
Yeah, the forum's rocking, and I'd like to give a general shout-out to all the new people who have joined in the last, week.
Yay, forums. They're having fun and constant discussions.
Yep. So once again, Thursday, we'll continue with the Wii, and at least an hour of talking about that, probably.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have a lot to say, but the nice overview will be simply that the Wii is awesome. They didn't say all the things we wanted them to say, information-wise, but they still said a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was very impressive. The Xbox was more impressive than you would expect.
Yeah, considering that my Xbox 360 came out last year, and last E3 was their big announce, they managed to add enough to it in this E3 to make me more interested in what they had to say than what Sony had to say.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good, considering it's Microsoft, who I generally don't like on principle.
This Shadowrun game I want to talk a lot about.
All right, we'll talk about Shadowrun next week. 2 days from now.
2 days from now.
So go out and read a bunch of E3 news, and that way, when you listen to us on Thursday, it'll all be old news to you and boring.
Yeah, if nothing else, though, watch what Nintendo did if you can get to it still, because YouTube and everyone is having trouble since everyone's watching it. Watch Nintendo's thing, because we're going to talk about it.
Go watch all 3 conferences. Watch the Sony conference,
Note the crowd's
Nintendo
responses.
conference, and the Microsoft conference. Pay attention to the responses of the crowds, the quality of the production on stage, and how excited it makes you, the things that they're showing, and what the things that they're actually showing and saying mean for real. That's what you have to pay attention to. Don't get wowed over by, CG renderings of demos that aren't actual games.
I don't think they'll be wowed over by some suits talking about shipping numbers.
No, they won't. Okay?
Yep, and don't forget to let us know about the long episode thing, because I'm actually curious now as to what the feelings of our general listenership are.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to have too many opportunities to do a long episode, except maybe a year from now at the next E3.
Yeah.
Or maybe an Otakon episode, but...
Otakon's going to be easy. We're just going to have Otakon week.
Yeah.
Monday will be the video games, or the tech at Otakon. Mm-hmm. Tuesday will be the video games at Otakon.
Hey, you want to do a theme week next week?
Oh, what theme should we do?
I don't know. There's a robot theme I thought about.
All right, anyone who's still listening, right now, suggest themes to us, and we'll pick whatever.
Next week is going to be a theme week for sure.
And it'll be a listener pick. We'll pick it, but we'll pick something that you guys suggest.
Yep. So if you suggest something on the forums or by email, we are going to pick a suggested theme for next week.
Woot.
Woot.
Whee!
Xbox. Wee.
And that was Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for our opening theme.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com. If you like our podcast, you'll love our forums. Make sure you visit them. You can send your email feedback to geeknights@gmail.com. And if you want, you can leave us a voicemail at 206-333-1537.
Geek Nights airs every weeknight, Monday through Thursday.
Geek Nights is recorded with absolutely no studio and no audience. But unlike those other talk shows, it's actually recorded at night.